I went back to the beginning to play Pokemon Red version all over again. If you want to view the whole playthrough, you can view it in its entirety on my channel, Jupiter Skyline. Without further ado, let's start playing this absolute classic. I ended up choosing Bulbasaur as my starter, not just because he's my favorite starter of all time, but also because his access to status moves such as Leech Seed and Toxic make him an invaluable team member, especially in the early game. I named him Slippy because it was the first thing I could think of. I used to be such a tryhard with Pokemon nicknames, but nowadays I usually just give it the first thing off the top of my head. Funny enough, those simple nicknames end up being my favorite. After losing our first battle against our rival to a barrage of scratches, I set out to build my team to make sure I never lose again. Once I delivered Professor Oak his parcel from the Viridian City Pokemart, I was all set to start catching new team members. Like many who venture onto Route 1, my first catch was a Pidgey, whom I lovingly named Nosy. It's super useful to have a flying type on the team to take on the bug types of the early game. However, Pidgey doesn't learn any flying type moves until level 31, when it's already a Pidgeotto. So much for that thought. Nonetheless, I continued north to grab my third team member, Busy the Weedle. These bug types aren't very strong for long, so it's smart to use them in the early game when they can actually do damage. I took a quick break from exploring to train up my team for the upcoming rival battle on Route 22. This is an optional battle, however, I'll need any amount of money I can get for potions and such. He leads off with his own Pidgey, while I lead off with Slippy, my highest level. Luckily, like I said before, Pidgey doesn't know any flying type moves yet, so this makes this a little less dangerous. I go for Leech Seed to set up some recovery, but miss after taking a gust for 8 damage. Luckily, the second Leech Seed hits, while Pidgey goes for Sand Attack. I hoped that Leech Seed plus Tackle could deal with Pidgey, but after a few missed tackles, I end up just shy of the KO. I swap into Busy, who even though he is several levels behind, still nabs the KO. I didn't expect him to be able to do anything to Charmander though, so I take a turn to heal up Slippy. I expected Busy to get knocked out here, but amazingly Busy survives. I quickly swap him out of harm's way and send Slippy back out. Luckily, we land the Leech Seed first try, and after a series of tackles, Charmander faints, giving us our first trainer victory of the game. With that out of the way, we begin our trek through the Viridian Forest. My newly leveled up team makes quick work of the bug-type Pokemon that inhabit this area, allowing Busy to evolve from Weedle to Kakuna. Plus, I'm also able to pick up another team member in Pikachu. Having electric-type attacks this early in the game will come in handy, especially after we beat Brock. I named the newly caught Pikachu Moustina for her mousy demeanor and proceed to prepare to take on the gym. You would expect this to be an easy battle, seeing as I have a grass type and Brock has only rock and ground types, but Slippy has yet to learn a grass type move. Instead, I lead with Busy, hoping to poison my opponent's Geodude with Poison Sting. Unfortunately, every time I tried, the attack missed. There's some weird Game Boy logic explaining what is happening here, but for now, I just gave up trying to poison Geodude and swapped to a different tactic. Instead, I'll be relying on Slippy using Leech Seed and Growl to keep the opponent weak and my HP high. Once I start collecting HP from my opponent, it's just a matter of time before I win. After Geodude faints, I use the same strategy on Onix, mixing in a few tackles to help the process along. It's tedious, but Onix does eventually fall, giving me both the victory and the Boulder Badge. Funny enough, Slippy learned Vine Whip right after the gym. Gee, that would have made this battle take no longer than 10 seconds. Moving on from Pewter City and onto Route 3, I take on a multitude of trainers to help level up my team before Mount Moon. This leads to Busy evolving again from Kakuna to his fully evolved form Beedrill. He's still stuck with just Poison Sting and String Shot, so his usefulness is somewhat limited for now. After I clear out all the trainers, it's time to take on Mount Moon. I spend some time taking on the odd trainer in the cavern and end up catching my own Geodude, whom I call Wall Maria. We do also have our first encounter with Team Rocket here. Wall Maria comes really handy here with her rock typing, because we almost lose to this level 16 Raticate. It manages to wipe out my entire team, but since Wall Maria resists both Hyper Fang and Tackle, we do manage to come out victorious. Before leaving the cave, I do catch Vino, a Paris, and grab the Helix Fossil. I don't know if I'm going to use either of these, but hey, why not? After exiting the cave, it's just a quick walk to Cerulean City, where we have our next encounter with our rival. Like last time, he leads with his Pidgeotto, and I was Slippy. Though unlike last time, I land the Leech Seed first try, taking a gust for 16 damage. I go for a Growl to lower his attack, and next turn swap to Moustina for the super effective damage. I'm a bit disappointed by how little Thundershock does, but next turn Moustina lands a critical hit, two-shotting Pidgeotto. Next up is Abra. Moustina is still at pretty low HP, however Abra only has Teleport, a non-damaging move, giving me the all clear to stay in and KO the Abra with Thundershock. For Rattata, I swap in a Nosy. I go for Quick Attack while Rattata misses twice in a row, allowing me to get the KO without taking any damage. Nice! Blue's final Pokemon is Charmander, for whom I swap into Busy. I was assuming that he didn't know any Fire-type moves yet, but after taking half damage from an Ember, I realized my mistake. Luckily, I land Fury Attack 5 times, twice, knocking out Charmander with only 5 HP remaining, giving me the win. After the match, Slippy evolves into Ivysaur, and I begin my trek across Route 24. Here, I do some training against the Nugget Bridge trainers, bringing Nosy to level 18 and evolving her into Pidgeotto. All that's left to do on Route 22 is talk to Bill and get the SS ticket. The team is properly leveled up now, so I make my way to the gym to take on Misty. She leads with Staryu, while I start with Busy. I hope to do as much damage as I can with Fury Attack before having to resort to Slippy or Moustina. Busy ends up just shy of the KO before he goes down, allowing Moustina to come in for the priority Quick Attack. Next, Starmie comes out with a critical hit Water Gun, leaving Moustina at less than a third of HP left. I am able to paralyze Starmie with Thunder Wave, however, allowing Moustina to land 2 Thunder Shocks before she's knocked out by a tackle. Slippy comes in to finish the job with a one-shot Vine Whip, securing us the victory. On the way out of Cerulean, I catch Cobra Kai the Ekans on Route 4 and Bipolar the Mankey on Route 5. Then, after I come out of the tunnel under Saffron City, I make quick work of the trainers on Route 6 and arrive in Vermilion City. The first thing I do is talk to the chairman of the Pokemon fan club and get the bike voucher, which I promptly use back in Cerulean to get my free bike. Next up is taking on the SS-San. I take this opportunity to add Wall Maria, the Geodude we caught in Mount Moon, to the team. Battling all the trainers aboard the ship should be excellent to level her up before we take on the gym. Before we can enter the captain's quarters, we are challenged by Blue once again. He starts out with his Pidgeotto again, but this time I make quick work of the chubby bird using Wall Maria. 2 rock throws do the trick, while I take minimal damage from a gust attack. Same deal for Eradicate, 2 rock throws to KO, while only 5 damage from a critical quick attack. Kadabra is a lot more threatening. Confusion is almost enough to put Wall Maria out of commission, though I am able to put Kadabra at low health as well with another well-placed rock throw. I get Wall Maria out of there and swap into Nosy, while Kadabra wastes a turn on Disable. 1 quick attack is all it takes to finish him off. Charmander, or rather Charmeleon now, is last. Nosy and Charmeleon exchange quick attack and embers respectively, but Nosy pulls through in the end, winning us the fight. Wow, Wall Maria really made that fight a lot easier than the last. And I think I'll have the same exact experience with Surge, especially now that I've taught Geodude Dig. After a rather suspect visit to the captain's quarters, we now have Cut, and therefore access to the gym. I was lucky enough to finish the gym puzzle in only a few tries, so now it's time to take on Lieutenant Surge. Surge begins the fight with Voltorb, using an X speed that amounts to nothing, as I one-shot him with Dig the next turn. Pikachu suffers a similar fate, falling to a single Dig as I take a single point of damage from Quick Attack. Next up is Raichu, who stupidly uses Thunder Shock and then, you guessed it, falls to 1 Dig. This fight would have been terrible if I haven't added Wall Maria to the team. Go figure, having an electric immunity and an electric gym helped out. Before moving on, I catch a Drowsy named the Schnoz and then move through Diglett's Cave. There's a few things on the other side that I'm gonna need to progress. First of which is a Mr. Mime I get from an in-game trade. Psychic types are amazing in Gen 1, so I have high hopes for Marcel here. Next, I'm gonna need Flash to get through Rock Tunnel. After that, I fight my way through Route 9 and enter Rock Tunnel. I quickly light up the way with Flash and also catch a Machop named Ten Shinhan. Rock Tunnel is a pretty tough area. It winds around like a maze and there are trainers all over the place. This does make for some good XP, leveling up my team substantially and allowing Wall Maria to evolve into Graveler. There isn't much to do in Lavender Town before I get the Sylph Scope, so after some exploring, I start making my way to Celadon City to get my next gym badge, starting by taking on the trainers on Route 8. I also spend some time in the grass trying to catch a Growlithe. It takes a couple of tries as they keep using Roar to escape, but I eventually do catch one, and name it Venus. Another few short battles and I've arrived to Celadon. The first thing I do is grab the free Eevee and name it Keith, one of my most uninspired yet iconic nicknames. Busy and Marcel make very quick work of the gym trainers, leading us right into our first gym battle against Erica, who leads with Victory Bell. I start with Nosy, who still doesn't have any flying type moves, but it doesn't even matter as Erica uses Wrap and immobilizes Nosy immediately. I decide to be impatient and swap into Busy, who dodges the second Wrap. Here's something to remember, not only is Bug type super effective against Grass, but in Gen 1 only, Bug is also good against Poison types. Nothing demonstrates this more than the fact that Busy the Beedrill is able to one-shot this Victory Bell that is 2 levels higher than it with Twin Needle. Just another one of the many things completely busted in this game. Tangela is able to live a Twin Needle, seeing as it's a pure Grass type, and traps Busy with Bind. No worries though, as Busy takes a very small amount of damage before he's free, and finishes Tangela off with another Twin Needle. Her final Pokemon is Vileplume, and only because I want to level my Pokemon up evenly, I send out Nosy again. This idea is quickly shut down as Vileplume goes for Sleep Powder. I come to my senses and just finish the fight with another Twin Needle from Busy, winning me my 4th gym badge. I could have ended that battle so much quicker if I just stopped worrying about trying to be fancy and go for the super effective move. Oh well, a win is a win. After the fight, I evolve Moustina into Raichu with my Thunderstone. I also spend a great deal of time trying to find my Thunderbolt TM to teach her, but for the life of me, I couldn't find it. Seriously, even after going through the footage, I still have no idea what happened to it. All that aside, it's time to take on the Rocket Base hidden in the game corner. The Rocket Grunts don't put up much of a fight at all, which leads me to my first encounter with the Team Rocket boss, Giovanni. He leads Onyx, while I choose Marcel, who shreds through Onyx's paper-thin special defense with confusion. As Giovanni sends out Rhyhorn, I opt for Slippy and make short work of him with a quad-effective Vine Whip. For his final Pokemon Kangaskhan, I use Walmaria, hoping to hide behind her nice defense stat. Kangaskhan does manage to land a couple of high damage hits, but not before Walmaria KOs with the Rock Throw. Underwhelming, considering this is supposed to be the main villain of the entire game, or maybe I'm just that good of a Pokemon trainer. I grab the HM for Fly and teach it to Nosy, and use it to fly back to Lavender Town. Now that we got the Silph Skull from Giovanni, I can take on the ghosts in Pokemon Tower. Before I can get too far, I am stopped by Blue and once again challenged to a battle. Like always, he starts with his Pidgeotto. I have Marcel out front, hoping to use him on the ghost types of Pokemon Tower. It appears we were a bit over-leveled from taking on the Rocket base, so this should be a breeze. 2 confusions from Marcel following a missed Whirlwind puts Pidgeotto down. Next up is Execute, for whom I send out Walmaria for some reason. I quickly rectify the mistake by swapping into Busy, dodging a Hypnosis, and one-shotting with Twin Needle. Gyarados is an easy swap into Moustina, who obliterates it with a powerful Thunder Shock. For Kadabra, I send out Nosy and just missed the KO with Quick Attack. It really doesn't matter though, because he misses the Disable, letting me KO with another Quick Attack. His final Pokemon is Charmeleon, who is put down swiftly by Walmaria using Dig. Yeah, the team is definitely over-leveled for this fight. I guess you are expected to come here before taking on Celadon in the Rocket Hideout. We were a whole 10 levels above some of his Pokemon. Just shows the amount of freedom you have in the order you take on some of these fights, especially compared to future games. Well, now that that's out of the way, I could take on some of the Channelers in the Pokemon Tower. Marcel shreds through the ghost types, getting me to the top very quickly, but not before I capture Crazy Face the Ghastly and Bonehound the Cubone. Upon reaching the top, I mop the floor with these Rocket Grunts and grab the Pokeflute from Mr. Fuji. Prompted by a fantastic suggestion from the chat, I take the opportunity to rename Walmaria to the iconic Waru Maria, which is a lot more fun to say. Anyways, it's time to use our newly acquired Pokeflute. I head west from Celadon and use it on the Snorlax sleeping in the road. Instead of simply KOing it, I take the time to catch the sleeping giant and name it Big Sleepy. Who knows, he may come in handy soon. Afterwards, I spend some time taking care of some loose ends around the region, such as taking out the other Snorlax, grabbing the Super Rod, exploring the Safari Zone, where I capture Megamoth the Venomoth and Waru Rose the Rhyhorn, capturing Rigel the Staryu, and taking on trainers I missed around the region. During this time, Slippy evolves into Venusaur as well. But enough dawdling, it's time to take on Koga in the Fuchsia City Gym. Coughing comes out first, for whom I lead with Busy. 2 Twin Needles is all it takes to put him down after he wastes time using a useless X-Attack. Next up is Muck, who poses a much larger threat to my team. Is what I would say if Busy wasn't able to land 2 Twin Needles despite Muck going for Minimize, KOing without taking any damage. Nice! Koga's second Coughing befalls a similar fate to the first, but not after lowering Busy's accuracy with 2 smoke screens. To avoid frustration, I take on Koga's final Mon, Wheezing, with Waru Maria. 2 Digs is all it takes to finish the fight. It feels so good to be able to use a Beedrill this late in the game and still have it be effective. But all good things must come to an end, because I want to shake up the team a little bit. I opt to take Marcel and Busy off the squad and add the newly caught Big Sleepy and Rigel. I get them both trained up, teach them some new moves, and evolve Rigel into Starmie to prepare to take on Silphco. The multitude of Rocket Grunts here make for great XP, allowing Nosy to evolve into Pidgeot and Waru Maria into Golem. Yes, I am allowed in trade evolutions. I think it makes the game more fun. Most of the Grunts don't pose much of a threat. I let the new team members have a chance to battle, which they do wonderfully. Rigel gives the team some much needed type coverage with Ice Beam and Surf, and Big Sleepy is just a complete tank. I'm having a lot of fun using these two. After looking up a map of Silphco, I'm finally able to find my way to Blue for our next rival battle. As you'd expect, Pidgeot leads Blue's team. I got Big Sleepy up first, but I quickly swap into Moustina. A barrage of sand attacks from Pidgeot causes me some frustration, as now I can't seem to land Thunder Shock at all. After I get him into the red, I remember Moustina has Swift, a move that can't miss, and I finish the bird off. It's my lizard brain always wanted to click the super effective move, regardless of whether or not it'll actually be effective. Oh well, I figured it out in the end. For Execute, I use my own Pidgeot, taking out 3/4 HP before Nosy gets paralyzed, which allows Execute to set up Reflect before he goes down. Next up, I swap in a Moustina for Gyarados, going for 2 Thunder Shocks and bypassing the Reflect entirely. Alakazam follows, giving me a shot to use Big Sleepy in a major fight for the first time. After taking a critical confusion, Big Sleepy just misses the KO with Strength. I would have KO'd the next turn if Alakazam didn't land a second critical confusion, taking Big Sleepy out. I take a risk and send out Nosy, hoping to break through paralysis. My risk is rewarded, as Quick Attack swiftly puts Alakazam down. Finally, out comes Charizard, for whom I use Rigel. Once again, I'm just shy of the KO using Surf, and Charizard retaliates with a critical slash. Luckily, this time I'm faster, putting Charizard down and winning the match. Blue is definitely getting harder to fight. His team was almost all higher level than mine. Well, I'm sure nothing will come of that, right? Coming out of the fight, I grab Slushy the Lapras and head straight to the top to face Giovanni. He starts with Nidorino. I'm amazed that he has non-fully evolved Pokemon on his team at this point of the game. I suppose it just makes it easier for us though, as it takes 2 headbutts from Big Sleepy to take him down. Wadomuria comes in for Kangaskhan, who falls to 2 Earthquakes without inflicting a single point of damage. Rhyhorn falls to a 1-shot Razor Leaf from Slippy, no surprise there. Similarly, Rigel 2-shots Nidoqueen with a powerful Surf, while Giovanni wastes time with a Guard Spec, winning us the fight. Compared to Blue, Giovanni has been much less threatening. Nonetheless, we got the Master Ball from the Silph President. I got a little extra time before it's time to fight Sabrina, so I clear out the fighting dojo and get Bruce Lee the Hitmonlee in the meantime. He won't be useful in the coming gym, but why pass up free XP, you know? I always manage to get lost in Sabrina's gym, though the trainers aren't that big of a deal. Because of Big Sleepy's high special stat, I'm able to wall most psychic attacks in the gym, defeating the gym trainers in short order and bringing me to Sabrina. Like I said before, I lead with Big Sleepy against her Kadabra. I take a pretty powerful psychic while I opt to set up my special stat with Amnesia. That would have helped a lot if Kadabra didn't hit a crit Psybeam on the next turn. I set up another Amnesia right after, and the next turn I'm forced to heal. I'm spared from any more damage from Kadabra as he chooses to disable my Body Slam. I can still KO in one hit with Strength, but I only have 2 remaining power points in that move. Hopefully I'm not disabled for too long. Mr. Mime likewise falls to a single Strength after setting up a light screen and is followed by Venomoth. I go for another Amnesia, hoping to wait out the disable, and funny enough, it wears off that turn. After a light critical hit from Venomoth, I KO with a Body Slam. The same goes for Alakazam. 1 light Psybeam and I KO with Body Slam, finishing the fight. Big Sleepy was definitely the right man for the job, and he is quickly becoming one of my favorite team members. Getting the Mars badge allows us to use Surf outside of battle, giving us access to previously inaccessible areas like Cinnabar Island and the Power Plant. Here, I catch Polar, the Magneton, and try my hand at catching my first legendary of the game, Zapdos. I didn't realize it'd be level 50, but I think we can manage. I start by paralyzing with Thunder Wave from Moustina. Now that it's paralyzed, it's just a matter of whittling down its HP. Moustina puts in some good work, but eventually faints, after getting Zapdos to 1/3 HP. I sacrifice Nosy to use Quick Attack and take just a little more damage off, and use Busy, who I temporarily bought back to use Cut, to get Zapdos to as little HP as possible. I'm then reminded of another one of Gen 1's annoying quirks, the ability to miss throwing a Pokeball. Luckily, after trying a few times, an Ultra Ball lands and catches on the first try. I named Zapdos Atom Crash, one of my best nicknames to date. Just to clarify, I don't really intend on using any of the legendaries I catch. I just think the experience of finding them adds a lot to the game. It's simple fun. On the way out, I also catch an Electabuzz named 5-Amp and head back to Cinnabar Island. Aside from catching Damascus the Ponyta, the Pokemon Mansion was rather uneventful. I was able to get the secret key, so I can unlock the gym and take on Blaine. Moustina takes the lead here, missing a Thunder on his Growlithe, while Blaine stupidly goes for a Super Potion on turn 1. Don't ask me why, that's weird Gen 1 logic. I take a couple of takedowns before I'm able to land a Thunder and one-shot Growlithe. I swap into Rigel for Ponyta. I really don't know why I didn't lead Rigel in this fight, but whatever. One Surf takes Ponyta out, as well as Rapidash and Arcanine, with back-to-back critical hits. The way critical hits work in Gen 1 is absolutely busted. It pays to have a fast Pokemon like Rigel around. I take the time to solve the Water Current puzzle in the Seafoam Islands as well to get Articuno. I use the same strategy for catching Articuno that I did for Zapdos. Start by paralyzing with Moustina and whittle it down to red HP. This time, I build a Big Sleepy special stat with Amnesia to make sure that I can live long enough to catch this thing. After all that setup, it takes a single Ultra Ball to capture. We like it when things are easy. Now there's one gym standing between us and the Pokemon League, our final bout with Giovanni. Remember how I said our last fight with this guy was anticlimactic? Well, don't get your hopes up because it just takes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 attacks from Rigel to end the fight, getting me my final gym badge. By the time you get to this point in the game, your team is so juiced up on stat experience that it would be surprising not to one-shot this gym. It's a quick walk from Viridian to Route 22, where I'm once again met by Blue, just like in the beginning of the game. This time I start with Big Sleepy to try out Blizzard on his Pidgeot. I thought it would one-shot, but it just brought him down to 1/3 HP. After a non-consequential agility from Pidgeot, I finish him with Strength. Rhyhorn falls to quad-effective Razor Leaf from Slippy, no surprise there, and I swap in a Nosy to use Fly on Execute. He was able to hang on and land a Poison Powder on Nosy. Doesn't really matter as I KO with a Quick Attack and swap right out to Moustina for Gyarados. Gyarados does manage to land a Dragon Rage after I miss Thunder, but the second one lands, knocking him out in one hit. For Alakazam, I swap back into Big Sleepy, but before I can land my Body Slam, Alakazam hits a critical Psybeam that confuses Big Sleepy, making him hurt himself. Well, that puts Big Sleepy out for the count, so I swap back into Rigel, who whittles him down with 2 Surfs and KOing with an Ice Beam. Charizard is an easy swap into Wadomuria, who somehow doesn't one-shot with Rock Throw. After a few misses, we land a second, finishing the fight. Funny, all Charizard was trying to do was use Rage, even after I missed a couple rock throws. In any case, we now have access to Victory Road. Gen 1's Victory Road is one of the easier ones in my opinion. The puzzles aren't too tough, and at this point of the game, most trainers aren't very tough. They're just annoying. The only other thing worth mentioning is that we do have an encounter with Moltres is in this cave. Unfortunately, despite my best efforts, Moltres is the only of the birds we weren't able to catch. Remember that thing I mentioned before about Pokeballs missing sometimes in this game? Well, I couldn't get a single Pokeball to land, no matter what I did. I also, for some reason, didn't have my Master Ball on me, so I decided it wasn't worth it and just moved on. Without further ado, it's time to take on the Pokemon League and beat the game. First up is Lorelei with her Ice types. Most of her Pokemon are also Water types, so I figured it was a safe lead with Moustina. She leads with Dugong, who dodges my Thunder on turn 1 and lands a Takedown, bringing Moustina to half health already. I fire back with another Thunder, which lands this time, putting Dugong into red HP. Dugong goes for Growl. I don't know why an Elite Four member has Growl on its team, so I KO with Thunder Shock the next turn. Cloyster is in next, who I'm luckily able to land Thunder on first try and KO with a critical hit. Thank God, because that could have been a real threat to this team. I managed to land Thunder first try again on Slowbro and get the paralysis, though he lives and is able to set up an Amnesia. That is pretty scary, but like so many other trainers in this game, Lorelei just wastes time with setup moves, allowing Moustina to KO with 2 more Thunder Shocks. Jynx is her only non-water type Pokemon, so I use Body Slam on Big Sleepy, knocking her down to the red. I'm surprised how much damage Jynx is able to put out, but we ultimately KO with Strength, leading us to our last Pokemon, Lapras. Moustina is the logical option here, but once again, I miss Thunder, allowing Lapras to put Moustina into critical HP. I am able to land 1 Thunder before Moustina goes down, letting Slippy come in for revenge, winning the battle with a Razor Leaf. Now, I have just the Mon for Bruno, and that Mon is Rigel. Boasting super effective moves for every one of his Pokemon, Rigel's able to one-shot Onix, Hitmonchan, Hitmonlee, Onix number 2, and Machamp. Bruno has a reputation for being, let's just say, not very good, so this is to be expected. Agatha is known as the Ghost-type Elite Four member, however, due to the small number of Ghost Pokemon in this game, all of her Pokemon are Poison-type, making Watermuria a perfect lead here. Gengar could have done some serious damage here, but he decides to go for a Dream Eater even though I'm awake, allowing me to KO with a super effective Dig. Golbat is second, for whom I swap into Moustina. Once again, missing the first Thunder. I resist a Wing Attack, then land the second Thunder for massive damage, followed by a Thunder Shock to KO. Her Haunter is able to do some damage to Watermuria, hitting a Nightshade for almost half. I retaliate with a one-shot Dig. Likewise, Arbok falls to 1 Dig after missing Screech. Gengar number 2 comes in with another Nightshade, putting Watermuria in pretty low HP, but there's no way this thing is living a Dig. Watermuria one-shots and secures the 3rd Elite Four victory. The final Elite Four member, Lance, has some really threatening Pokemon, but I think I have a strategy to make short work of him. Using Amnesia on Big Sleepy, I'm able to take multiple Hydro Pumps from Gyarados, as well as boost the power of Blizzard. Gyarados goes down after 3 Body Slams, and Blizzard one-shots his 2 Dragonair, Aerodactyl, and Dragonite, sprinkling in some potions to keep Big Sleepy healthy. And now for our final fight. One of the best twists in Pokemon history and my favorite champion of all, Blue. This ought to be tough, but with this team, I know we can beat him. I anticipate the lead from Pidgeot, after all, that's how he leads almost every fight in the game. Moustina bangs off her last power point for Thunder on turn 1, landing a critical hit and one-shotting Pidgeot. Blue's Alakazam might be his most threatening Pokemon. I use Amnesia on Big Sleepy to build up my special stat, but he keeps landing critical hits, eventually bringing Big Sleepy down, even after healing. This thing wrecks my entire team and needs to be brought down quick. I bring in Watermuria, hoping to live 1 attack. She manages to hang on after a devastating Psybeam and fire off an explosion, luckily one-shot KOing Alakazam. So far, this has been an absolutely treacherous fight, and it's one of the reasons why I love it so much. Rhydon is a lot less threatening and goes down to a single quad-effective Surf from Rigel. Using Double Team, Nosy is able to dodge every one of Exeggutor's attacks, eventually bringing him down with Fly. Gyarados is also very scary, especially considering Moustina is out of Thunder power points. I opt to go for Thunder Shock instead, which doesn't do as much as I hoped. Gyarados proceeds to knock out Moustina with an immensely powerful Hyper Beam. Now, this is Gen 1 Hyper Beam. Since he managed to knock out my Pokemon with it, he doesn't have to wait a turn to recharge, putting me in a very precarious situation. I'm afraid he's forced my hand. I use a Max Revive on Big Sleepy and proceed to set up more double teams with Nosy. It seems I didn't need Big Sleepy here anyway, as I'm able to dodge most of Gyarados' attacks and chip him away with Fly, eventually KOing. This brings us to his final Pokemon, his starter, Charizard. Rigel seems like the right choice here, though Charizard isn't as frail as Rhydon was. A critical slash brings Rigel into the yellow, while a Surf does the same for him. Knowing that he's faster than me, I choose to revive Watermuria and let Rigel go down to another slash. Watermuria lands the Rock Throw first try and makes us the Pokemon League champion. This is one of my favorite teams I've ever taken on this game with, and it was really cool seeing them one by one entering the Hall of Fame. Not to mention, this is the first Pokemon game I've ever played to completion on YouTube, and it was a total blast. If you want to watch me play the game in its entirety, you can watch the streams on my channel. Thanks a lot for letting me share this with you. This was a lot of fun to play and make. If you enjoyed, I'd appreciate if you'd like the video and subscribed, and I hope to see you next time it's time to play Pokemon.